some interesting information that I found. It's estimated that 95% of music activity on the internet is still illegal file sharing. Music industry lawsuits, as we know, have failed. The music business obviously has to adapt like everyone else. The Songwriters Association of Canada, you may or may not know this, commissioned a research firm, Crop. Here are a few numbers. 69% of Canadians who file share would be willing to pay a monthly fee if given the option to do so. 72% of households with teenagers would pay. And 93% agree that music creators should get paid, not the record companies. That's from the survey from the Songwriters Association of Canada. So, and the other part, which is rather interesting, the research shows that Canadians are willing to pay $5 a month for licensing fee. At 32 million people, that's a lot of money.
It's just a bit of the good news. A bit of the good news that I think is out there. Highlights. Billboard estimated the total 2012 digital music revenue in the U.S. as being $2.4 billion. Now, of course, that's primarily record label centric numbers here. They don't break out publishing or anything like that. But this gives you an idea of that. This is the interesting thing here is of that, approximately a quarter was not download revenue. It was the new emerging markets of subscription and services like Pandora, and, etc. And that's growing rapidly. There's an article, a headline, Bloomberg, quoting Nielsen, I guess, U.S. music sales climbed 3.1% in 2012. According to Nielsen, the total music purchases in the U.S., which includes physical as well as digital, were up 3.1% last year. Digital music itself continues to grow at 9% clip. The average, the growth rate for digital albums last year was 14%, but there was a couple of genres that grew in far excess of that. One was country, another was Latin, another was rock. Digital track sales were up 5%, but three genres were up almost triple that or more, and one was dance, that was country, another was rock. And for the first time, digital songs sold more than 6 million downloads last year, and there was actually two of them, Carly Rae Jepsen, of course, and the Got Ye song, and there was actually a third song that almost reached that threshold. So for all intents and purposes, there were three songs that sold 6 million downloads last year. There's a well-known and well-respected music publishing journalist who has a newsletter called the Susan Butler Report, and her name's Susan Butler. She's her background is she's an entertainment attorney, and she has done a study and a focus recently on the new emerging digital services and some of the business models behind them and the licensing nuts and bolts associated with them. And her comment in her last issue was, music sales are looking brighter than they have for more than a decade. There are some really promising digital music services and executives leading those services in the market. There are promising emerging markets for recorded music, especially in India via mobile, and there are more ways of discovering new artists than ever before. Several investors and investment bankers have said to her that in the past month they believe it is a really good time to buy a record company. So that's pretty interesting. Also, another headline, Business Matters and Billboard Biz. Google says Gangnam Style video has earned over $8 million on YouTube. Tom Silverman, Tommy Boy Records founder, sort of industry visionary, envisions a day when the music industry will be a $100 billion business. Largely by incorporating the sort of non-traditional revenue streams associated with our music and or the new emerging services, including satellite radio and all the digital services we're talking about. So that is good news. That's the good news. But the bad news about the good news is, as we've been talking, that where's our piece in all that? And who's protecting our piece? And as I said a minute ago, I think that's a combination of issues. In the Wild West, I think the only protection you can have is you have to be with somebody, who's got a posse, somebody with guns and clout. And that means a big company, a big collective, because individual creators, composers, songwriters, I think are going to have a hard time extracting your piece of the puzzle until the industry matures. When it's in the Wild West phase, it's dog eat dog. And I think a really good example of that would be the recent announcement that Sony ATV just achieved a 25% increase in the royalty from Pandora, and the Pandora royalty to music publishers and therefore composers has been one of the sorest points in the music business and sorest points in this whole issue of where's our piece of the future, because it was a pathetic rate. It was a result of systemic problems that we have in our business. And why was Sony ATV able to negotiate that large increase? But by the way, the rate's still not huge, but it was a large increase. And the answer is because they got clout. They got size, they got the repertoire, and they went directly to Pandora and said, you're not using our music unless you pay us more. So unless you have the clout to say you're not using my music unless you pay me, then you're going to be out of luck.